Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today with our final piece of E3 2016 coverage. I want to start with a few words. Number one, thanking all of you guys for watching all of the E3 coverage that I did this year. It was completely unannounced and unexpected for you. I didn't really plan this ahead of time. I just said, hey, you know what? I really like E3. It's like Christmas for me because I'm still that like old school, childish gamer who just loves video games. I'm not jaded. I'm not loaded with cynicism. I haven't been beaten to the ground by, terribly disappointing games. I still love video games to death. I played way too many awesome video games throughout the course of my lifetime to not get excited about the announcement of new video games or the reveal or the further reveal of games that we've already seen. Like, I just get giddy about it. E3 is still Christmas for me. And one day, when I can afford to, leave my day job, I will no doubt dedicate an entire week to celebrating E3 and making even more content than I already did this week. But like I said, thank you guys so much for watching all of it. I know it was like 5-6 videos. This will probably be 7, I think. You can actually check out the entire playlist. It is located at the top right now of my main YouTube page. It'll have all of the E3 coverage that I did all in one convenient place for you guys. As I said, I'm going to do it bigger next year. It was awesome this year. I didn't really know how well it would do. I figured if I covered E3 in like a news type fashion and just did, little discussion pieces about the game, talked about some of my concerns and also talked about the things that have me excited, it would still very much be what you guys would expect from me and people would still dig it. And it worked out that way because a lot of you did dig it. Those videos have all done very well. And we actually saw some really awesome subscriber growth this week. I think just in the last 2 days alone, it's been over 300 subs. So that's really awesome, and I'd like to welcome all of you new subscribers to the channel. Hello, boy. If you feel like saying hello down in the comment section below, feel free to do so. I won't bite. I know most of the people down in the comment section below won't bite either. Some of them might, but I'm pretty sure they've had their rabies shots, so you'll be okay. It's just a flesh wound. But seriously, thank you for subbing to the channel. If you feel like telling me what brought you here, that would be fantastic. It's always difficult as a YouTuber when you see a huge boost of a huge boost of subs to be like, where do they come from? I don't know what brought them here. What video did they watch? Why are they here? I don't actually think it was the E3 content, but anyways, let's get back on track. So what I wanted to do today was just kind of recap on some of the things that we didn't talk about that I didn't cover in their own video, talk a little bit about Sony and Microsoft's press conference, and then wrap it up with a little bit of a short highlight of my games of the show, the games that I'm most excited to see and actually get my hands on when the time comes. And of course, feel free to chime in with some of the games that have you most excited. Throw them down in the comment section below. Which ones are you looking most forward to most? Which ones do you maybe had the best showing? I think Dishonored 2 is up there for me. We'll talk about that a little bit later, though. Let's start, though, by talking about Sony and Microsoft. I want to say that I think they both had really strong conferences, but in two very different ways. Sony obviously very focused on PSVR right now, and for all the right reasons. PSVR is potentially going to be the most affordable version of consumer VR that we will ever see. You look at the cost of the headset, which I think is $399, $400 plus a $300 console, and that's still less than you're paying for the Vive, and potentially still less than you're going to pay for the Rift with the touch controllers. Not to mention the fact that you still need the PC to run all of that stuff. So, PSVR with the PlayStation 4 is way more affordable than any other form of, actual VR. I understand there's like Gear VR and all of that stuff, but we're talking about actually playing, legitimate games. And they announced quite a few at Sony's press conference. I think the biggest one for me anyways was Resident Evil 7, which looks to be returning to its sort of survival horror roots. And the idea of playing that game in VR, damn. I already can barely handle games like Amnesia, and I can barely do those games with a headset on in a dark room. The idea of VR has me giddy because I would love to scare myself so bad that I scream like a little girl, and hopefully someone records it on camera somewhere because that's YouTube money, no doubt. But seriously, lots of awesome VR stuff from Sony. That was really their big, that was the big thing they brought to the table. Meanwhile, Microsoft was about the announcement of new mechanics and features, and of course, Project Scorpio and the Xbox One S. So I think the biggest thing for them, though, they announced a lot of cool stuff. There's going to be clubs coming to Xbox, which is something that Sony's kind of already doing with the PlayStation 4. How they're doing like a whole competitive networking. They're going to have a looking for group feature on Xbox. A lot of really cool stuff, man. Like genuinely listening to the community. Mikey Ybarra and his tech team over there, like just putting this stuff together, putting it in Xbox One preview and making it work. And that's wicked cool. But I think the biggest thing is their cross-buy/cross-play push. You know, what they're calling, I think, Xbox Anywhere. So pretty much from here on out, if you buy a first-party title from Microsoft, Forza Horizon 3 is on that list, Gears of War 4 is on that list, you will get it on Windows 10 completely free of charge. So just like they did with Quantum Break, that's pretty much their decision moving forward, is that when you buy a game on Xbox One, first party anyways, it seems, you will get it on Windows 10 for free. And it supports cross-play, cross-save, your profile goes back and forth. You can play, you know, Forza Horizon with the controller on the Xbox One while your friend plays with this crazy steering wheel setup over on the PC. The only limitation, which I think is set by the developers, is which games will support or won't support crossplay for certain features. For example, Gears of War 4 supports crossplay from Windows 10 to Xbox One for all of its co-op game modes. So horde mode, cooperative, like versus bots multiplayer, and the story. But you will not be able to play competitive multiplayer for good reasons. Mouse and keyboard versus controller. The turning speed of a mouse and keyboard user compared to the controller user is just not fair in a game like Gears of War's multiplayer. So I imagine that is going to very much be up to the developer, but nonetheless, pretty freaking cool, man. Like, that's probably one of the biggest moves they've made in a very, very long time, and I imagine a lot of people are very happy about that right now. That also means that if you're someone who already has Windows 10 and doesn't own an Xbox, that you're going to have access to all of these games that probably wouldn't have otherwise launched on Windows 10. So it's no longer just Xbox One exclusive. It's now Xbox One and Windows 10 exclusive. And then, you know, they showcase the game for you. So they both had really strong showings, like I said, in two very different ways. We should talk briefly about Microsoft's Xbox One S, which is basically just an updated slim version of the Xbox One, but it has HDR and it supports 4K Blu-ray playback. So it's pretty much going to be the cheapest 4K Blu-ray player on the market. So if you're into the idea of watching movies in 4K on Blu-ray, which I think the first movie is going to be coming out in the next couple of months, it's like 100 gigabytes in size, and you have a 4K TV, even if you have a 1080p TV, I imagine the downscaling would still be pretty impressive. You can buy an Xbox One S for $299 with a 500 gigabyte hard drive in the new Xbox One controller, which has the textured grips from the Xbox One Elite controller. That's a pretty good niche to fill, you know, with your platform. The fact that a lot of people are going to buy it as a Blu-ray player and then also have the added benefits of it being an Xbox One console. It's funny because the PlayStation 3 was in a similar situation when it launched. It was actually more affordable at one point than a Blu-ray player. So it was like, why would I buy a Blu-ray player when I can buy a PlayStation 3 and then also have a Blu-ray player and it plays video games? So they're filling that niche. I'm okay with consoles having like upgraded models like that. Some people get really worked up about it. To me, it's not fair to make the comparison. I see a lot of people making the comparison to like the iPhone. It's not the same thing because the iPhone legitimately gets hardware upgrades, like hardcore hardware upgrades every single year. So you spend $600 on one phone, the next year, the next phone's got, you know, a camera that has 6 times as many megapixels or something like that. Or, you know, it's not the same to me. They're pretty much with the Xbox One and just making sure that that is the best version of the hardware. It has the best performance, it's the best size. And I guess, you know, they are adding that additional 4K feature that could upset some people who own an original Xbox. I'm not going to be running out buying an Xbox One S. You know, my Xbox One is fine. I'm, you know, 100% okay with it. But to me, it makes sense for the person who, during, you know, the launch in August or after that point, goes out to buy an Xbox One, can get the best possible version of that console. It's going to help them from a business perspective, and why the hell not? That's all I have to say about it. The bigger thing, of course, was the announcement of Project Scorpio, which is going to be their new, insane, most powerful gaming console on the market. It's going to be launching next year, holiday 2017. There's a lot of crazy talk. They had developers. Todd Howard showed up at one point, you know, made a very, very distinct point about saying, you know, we're really going to need this new technology and hardware because we're going to be launching Fallout 4 in VR, so it's great to see the platform there, and you're kind of like, wait. So Microsoft, where's the VR announcement? Where's your VR headset? It better be dropping next year with the Scorpio. I really hope they do a VR headset. As someone who owns a PlayStation 4 and will have PSVR, I just, you know, to me, VR is amazing, and I want it to be available to everyone. So I hope that Microsoft gets their stuff together, stop worrying about HoloLens, nobody can afford that right now, and build a nice VR headset for your new Xbox. And of course, if you can, make it work on the previous Xbox, just like Sony has been able to do with their PlayStation 4. But the Scorpio is going to be 6 teraflops GPU, you know, crazy memory speed. They're just trying to build this really powerful 4K ready gaming console for the developers. That's awesome. And they're also making sure that things still exist in the same ecosystem. So when that does come out, 2016, and say we're playing Halo 6 on it, this is just completely theoretical, Halo 6 will still be playable on the Xbox One. So it's an additional, you know, it's an add-on to the ecosystem. It's not required. There aren't going to be games that are Scorpio exclusive, or at least that's what they're saying right now. All of the hardware and controllers will work on Scorpio. Everything will be backwards cross-compatible between these two platforms. They're just giving developers more hardware to, you know, push games at improved resolutions. They mentioned improved frame rates, but we also know there's restrictions that are going to happen there. If you have a competitive game, like a fighting game or an FPS, you can't have it be 30 FPS on the Xbox One and 60 FPS on the Scorpio. So it's going to be interesting to see how that comes together. And I think there's more to talk about in a later video later down the line when they possibly reveal more details about the Scorpio. But nonetheless, that's a pretty bold and crazy move by Microsoft with that. There's no doubt about that. All right, so now that we've talked about both those conferences, like I said, I think they did a great job. We'll talk about Nintendo at the end because I don't have much to say about Nintendo, but I do want to talk about The Legend of Zelda. Let's just talk about all the games, though. We're at the 11-minute mark. We got another 11 minutes before we hit the 20-minute mark. Let's see if I can do this. Let's talk about all the games that really genuinely excited me. Number one, I guess we could, you know, start with Microsoft since we're here. Forza Horizon 3. I'm a huge fan of the Forza Horizon franchise. Playground Games has killed it since day one. Forza Horizon 2 was a huge jump. They created some awesome expansions that brought in even more interesting vehicles, and now Forza Horizon 3 is taking us to Australia. It looks absolutely gorgeous. 350 cars at launch, they said. More customization, wide body kit options for the cars. They're going to bring back the storefront and the auction house, the two things that never should have been taken away from Forza Motorsport. It looks so good, man. And it has 4-player co-op throughout the entire campaign. Now, this is a big deal for me. My brother and I are huge Forza Horizon nuts. We love playing that game together, but we get way too caught up in doing, like, builds. So we'll get together and be like, all right, you go to your garage, I'll go to my garage. Let's both build a drift car. Let's both build a touring car, and then we'll compete against each other. So we'd burn away all this money, and then when it came time, we would have to go back to our campaigns separately and earn the cash again. Now we can go back to the campaigns together. It's drop in, drop out instantly. Crossplay is supported, as I said, across Windows 10 and Xbox One. That just looks to be one of the best racing games this year, and it's coming out in September. It's not even, it's 3 months away. Man, can't wait for that. Looks so freaking cool. Gears of War 4 was obviously shown off. It looks awesome. I'm not going to talk too much more about that. I want Gears of War 4. That's all you need to know. The big one for me, and I really didn't expect to see this there, was Dead Rising 4. I'm excited about this. Frank West is back. Dead Rising 3 for me was a game that I enjoyed, but it disappointed me because I didn't feel like I had that same sort of motivation that the original Dead Rising gave me. The last time I really, really loved a Dead Rising game, it was the first game. Dead Rising 1 is so incredibly special to me. I poured so many hours into that game. It was at a very, different point in my life when I was much younger. I had way less responsibility and that game was just everything to me. I played it for so many hours, so many playthroughs, new game plus. And it had that sort of hardcore old school feel to it. You were forced to save in bathrooms, and as much as I may have hated that, I also loved it. I even remember at one point my game being deleted because typical Capcom nonsense and not really ever explaining how the menus or a save system worked to a player, and I saved and quit. Saving and quitting meant that you could no longer go back to the game. You were ending your progress there at one point in Dead Rising's in history, and I still played the crap out of it after that. Meanwhile, Dead Rising 3, I would die and I'd be like, I'm done with this. I like the mechanics they introduced, the custom weapons, the custom vehicles, that all seems to be returning in Dead Rising 4. It just didn't do it for me. So here's to the hoping that Dead Rising 4 can bring me back and make me love Dead Rising again. I'm really excited about that. I think the other one that I've been looking forward to for quite some time is Sea of Thieves, which we did get to see sort of real gameplay of it. It was kind of a vertical slice of some YouTube personalities that brought in to play the game. It was cool, but it was all vertical slices. Like, actually, I just want to see the game. Like, I want to see somebody walk from start to finish, get in a pirate ship, but ignoring all of that, putting aside the skepticism, it's cooperative pirates in an open ocean setting. Hell yeah. Like, I'm so on board for that. And we saw some pretty deep mechanics, actually, having to raise the sails and figure out how all of that stuff worked. Like, I can't say yes enough, If that all comes together, that's going to be a really awesome cooperative experience, one that I'm very much looking forward to. Moving on to Sony. God of War. The new God of War seems to be a reboot of some sort. Not really entirely sure what's going on there, but honestly, I don't care. It looks absolutely stunning. You know, I've played God of War the way God of War was for such a long time. I'm ready for something new, and that seems to be delivering it. The idea of Kratos being a father and, you know, maybe raising his son to become a warrior. Like, the story alone has me hooked. And then you've got God of War gameplay, you know, which is brutal combat. And the overall presentation of that game. Like, Kratos, dude, with that beard, man. Oh, it looks so good. And when he went, you know, when he did his Spartan Rage, like, dude, I almost lost it, man. Just chills down my spine, dude. That game looks absolutely stunning. God of War games have always looked ridiculous visually. Really, really excited for that one. One that was completely shockingly surprising to me, and I think a lot of people felt like this, well, it was at the end of the conference. A lot of people still saying that it was sort of shoehorned in, but it was Sony Ben's Days Gone. Sony Ben is the developer behind Siphon Filter, which was a great game when I was growing up, but I tried to go back and play it on my PlayStation 3 when they were doing, like, you know, the PlayStation 1 games, and man, did that game not hold up well from a mechanics perspective. That is a hard game to play in 2016, let me tell you that. Okay, Days Gone, though. I'm getting off track here. Days Gone is a game where you take on the role of a lone biker turned bounty hunter in the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, I know a lot of people were disappointed when they saw zombies, and I have to admit I did like the idea of sort of just a, you know, a motorcycle bounty hunter. But when I think about, like, you know, what is the ultimate difficulty and gameplay multiplier, zombies definitely come to mind. So I understand why they went with zombies, and I still am very excited for that game. The demo was a bit odd, because they, you know, the guy like fired off like a 500 million AR-15 magazines into this group of like 6,000 zombies. And all I could say in my head is I would be getting to my motorcycle and running. But he also has a target to take down. You know, the whole thing felt cut short. It was definitely weird. I can understand why some people are questioning whether or not they were actually supposed to showcase gameplay of that. But I still thought it looked really cool, and I still totally want to play it. I love zombies, and as long as the zombie game is done good, I don't care how many zombie games they make. There can never be enough of one thing as long as it's done really well. That's all that matters to me, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Almost all of the PSVR stuff has me excited. I think the big thing about PSVR is it's hard to showcase a VR game in a trailer that isn't VR. So a lot of people looking at those games thinking, you know, oh, that looks really terrible in quality. But a lot of the stuff that I've read in terms of actual first impressions from YouTubers, Angry Joe himself, you know, spoke very well about how great a lot of those VR games are. So I'm looking forward to all of that. Lastly, though, was the PlayStation 4 exclusive Spider-Man game being developed by Insomniac. Insomniac and Spider-Man. That just seems like a, you know, a marriage made in heaven, a match made in heaven, a great relationship. I really like what Insomniac did with Sunset Overdrive. I think they're really good at making games with odd movement abilities, so this is their chance to test their might at bringing Spider-Man to life once again. I grew up playing a lot of really great Spider-Man games as a kid on the PlayStation 2, the original Xbox, and the GameCube. We had a few great games throughout the course of those console generations. So I'm hoping that they can do something really special with this. It looked great, you know, the animations and stuff look great, but it's one thing to make Spider-Man look great and a completely different thing to make him play great. And then, of course, to make a game in a city that feels alive and is satisfying to be a part of. So looking forward to that. I gotta say, I love the Spidey suit, so they're definitely off to a great start there. Now, I would say the last big thing for me, of course, was the new Legend of Zelda. Nintendo did their Treehouse, and they played a lot of the new Legend of Zelda. It seems to be, you know, it's open world Zelda, and I think we can all sit down and, if you're really honest with yourself, all of the things that they showcased have been done in other games and potentially done better. The question that you have to ask yourself is nostalgia enough for you to play a Zelda game? And I'm one of those people who is like, yes, it is. You know, like, think what you want about me. Yes, it is. There are very few games out there that I think can exist on mechanics that have already been done, you know, around game design that's already been done, potentially done better. But because there's that sense of nostalgia, that sense of presence, and admittedly, you know, other things like the music that they showcased and the visuals and the fact that it's Zelda, like it just does it for me. All of that looked really beautiful. And the idea of exploring an open world in Zelda, sitting down to camp, you know, beside the fireside with my horse that I tamed in the darkness, and then going to, you know, fight some Doku warriors or whatever. That all just looks really, really beautiful and incredible. And as long as they have solid dungeons and puzzles, I'm there. I am so there. No doubt about that. There's no doubt that I'm going to play that regardless. I was just really happy to actually see some substantial footage for Zelda finally. It sucks that we have to wait all the way until next year to play this game. You're killing me, Nintendo. You're killing me. They also showed off a bunch of Pokemon, and honestly, Pokemon's cool. I couldn't care less. My mom and I both were actually watching the Nintendo Treehouse together because she's a huge Zelda fan, obviously. This is the reason I'm into Zelda, and she's just sitting there, you know, watching it. She's like, I'm like, are they showing Zelda yet? I was working on YouTube. She's like, no, they're still talking about Pokemon. She's like, they're not supposed to play the whole thing. You think I care? I'm like, what's wrong with Pokemon? You like Pokemon? I know, but I just want to see Zelda. So, nostalgia definitely works, especially if you're Nintendo. I'd say that they've been building games and rehashing games on nostalgia alone for probably the last 10 years, and it's making them money. So I guess you got to go with what works for you. That's going to do it, though, guys. There's a lot of awesome indies that were at E3 as well that I didn't mention that I'm really excited for, that we'll probably be playing within the next few months. Below looks amazing. The team at Limbo has a new game coming out that we saw very little of. Oh, I almost forgot. How could I forget Prey? Arcane is rebooting Prey. Also, Dishonored 2. How could I forget these things? I hope you didn't leave. I'm sorry if you're already gone. I'm very excited for Dishonored 2. It looks amazing. I was actually replaying Dishonored 1 last night, and that game still holds up. Like, it still is just as good as it was when I played it day one. But as it turns out, Arcane is rebooting Prey. Prey 2 is gone. They're rebooting Prey. It looks insane. We didn't see any actual gameplay. It was all just crazy sort of, you know, footage. It's still a first-person shooter, it seems. Crazy psychological future stuff going on. And honestly, I could not think of a better developer to do Prey. Now, there was a lot of rumors in the past, actually, that Arcane was working on Prey 2, and those kind of got shut down and again, but it's real. They're doing Prey. I'm so excited about that. Can't you tell? Also, Lawbreakers, which I'll be playing this weekend, so I guess it's fair that I mention it. From Boss Key, Lawbreakers looks incredible. I will say that I have actually played it. I'm just not allowed to talk about it because it is still under NDA. However, this weekend, they will be removing the NDA. I can record footage and I can talk to you guys about Lawbreakers. In my opinion, going to be one of the best first-person shooters of 2016. That does it, guys. That is the end of my E3 coverage. Please, if there are any games that you would like to talk about that really excited you at E3, feel free to throw them down in the comment section below. Chances are, if you mention them, I'm probably just as excited as you are. Honestly, I think just about everything I saw at E3 had me stoked. Mafia 3 you can throw in there. There's just way too many games to talk about in one video. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you guys again so much for supporting this E3 coverage. Looking forward to doing this next year, but also looking forward to getting back to the regular content here on the channel. Lawbreakers this weekend, more Overwatch, and then onwards and upwards through the rest of summer. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.